Hi, so this week we are going to talk about computers, iPads, all forms of technology that people are using to make art. And we're going to discuss whether, what the shortcomings are and what the benefits are of drawing digitally. So our question this week is, should I draw digitally? And we're going to ask one of the newest members of our faculty at Sketchbook School, France Belleville van Stone. And France has done some incredible work on the iPad, and she's going to tell us about that experience. And we're going to discuss whether this is a good idea, whether you should try it out, and what you might get out of it. So without further ado, here is France, who also, by the way, is the author of a fantastic new book called Sketch that you should definitely pick up if you haven't already. And also you should join France in our new class, which is called Stretching. So sketch and stretching, remember those two words. And those are the two things that will introduce you to the world, both analog and digital, of France Belleville van Stone. Hi, France.
Hi, Danny.
So what do you think? Tell us a bit about how you came to start drawing digitally and what that experience has been like for you.
For me, it's been about 2.5 years now, almost 3, right about the time when I got an iPad for my birthday. I really didn't think I would have any use for the iPad. And okay, my husband got me an iPad. And right around that time was this brand new app coming out called Paper. And I was immediately drawn to it. I didn't mean
as it were.
Fun. But I was, because it seemed so simple. Because one of the things that I'm not a big fan of when it comes to digital art is the fact that you can doctor things so much. And I have the feeling that you sort of get away from a genuine drawing. Once you can go layer upon layer of Photoshop and coloring and so forth, then yeah, okay, if you spend enough hours on something, you can definitely come up with something great. But what I liked about Paper is that it retained, in my opinion, a lot of the spontaneity of the drawing because of the lack of possibilities, basically, and the lack of bells and whistles.
So Paper, which is an app that you're going to demo, to great effect in our class, is pretty. It's simple. It's different from Photoshop, for instance, in that it gives you sort of the equivalent of analog tools. So there's a brush, there's a pen, there's a marker, and there's a sort of limited range of colors, really. There aren't layers, and there aren't filters, and there aren't all those kinds of things. So that, in your effect, so to you, that makes it feel sort of somewhere between analog and digital in a way.
Yeah, I think they really succeeded in making, in bridging the gap between those of us who love the sketchbook, who love the feeling of, just grabbing that one pen that you have on you, and finally, getting that onto the iPad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I've tried Paper in different ways. I've tried it when I first used it with my finger, and with your finger, it's a different experience. I mean, I know that you use their official stylus, right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
So, that's really when things started getting more interesting, and I really got drawn even more into it. Once I got their stylus, and that was back in November 2013. So I had been using Paper off and on for about a year, and I liked it okay, but I was using a fairly cheap sort of stylus. I mean, this kind of thing that you find anywhere in any store for $19.95. Not knowing, of course, that this was a terrible stylus for drawing. 1, because the nib is big, and 2, because it sort of grabs at the surface. So once I bought Pencil, it's called Pencil by 53, the pencil that goes with the app, I realized, oh my gosh, this glides so much better on the surface. And little by little, as months went by, 53 unlocked all these possible features for the pencil, like, and this is not negligible, like the ability to rest your palm on the surface of your iPad as you draw, which to me, I mean, if there was one last hurdle to drawing digitally, this was definitely knocked down by the possibility of resting your hand, just like you would on your sketchbook. And that to me is amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that the intensity of the color, or the fact that everything is gliding and smooth, there's certain kinds of kind of visceral kind of benefits to doing it. It feels nice. It feels like, the analogy I like to have is like, it's like drawing with lipstick on a mirror, where everything is like really creamy,
Yeah.
and I always look for that in a pen. Like, how can I find a pen which is almost invisible because it's so smooth? And certainly that the tip of that pencil is a very thin kind of rubber. To me, though, despite playing around with those things, and despite watching you do it, because I was really impressed when we were filming our demo, how incredible the images that you were able to make, and how fast you were with it, and how beautiful the things were, and you were able to just knock out drawing after drawing. And then also, as we're going to see when we look at your sketchbooks, your digital sketchbooks in our sketchbook tour on stretching, you've done so many different kinds of effects. You've created things that really look like a pen drawing or a pencil drawing. You've done things that really look like the marker drawings. They have all the hallmarks of the analog tools that you're using. So I think that's really impressive and sort of enticing as well.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
In other words, but it brings us back to a thing that we often talk about at Sketchbook School, which is it the tool or is it the artist? And I think everybody wants to say, oh, if I buy the same pen that France is using, then I'll draw like she does. And obviously,
exactly. Yes. I know what you mean. Yeah. An anecdote on this is when I sketched with Liz Steele one day. We met in New York City. This was back 3 years ago, July 2012, and we sketched on the sidewalk. I remember we sat on 8th Avenue, and we sketched on the sidewalk. I got out my iPad, and this was one of the first times that I was using paper, and people kept looking over our shoulders. And when people finally got out and talked to us, the question that kept coming back, and it made Liz laugh so much, was, "Oh, what app do you use?" Not, how do you do that? It was like, "What app do you use? Because I want to draw that." It's like, "Oh, okay, it's called paper," but at the end of the day, it's the drawing.
It's true. So I think a lot of us are going to be tempted to try paper out, and hopefully with great results. It is a lot of fun. To me, though, there's another issue which goes beyond just technical mastery. It's an aesthetic issue. It's a physical issue. To me, the part of it is that feeling of what is it like to have a pen on paper, to have the line coming out when you're holding a piece of paper. But I think another thing is the possibility of deleting, of going backwards, of undoing things. And I find that temptation is kind of destructive to me, to my process at least, because I want to be able to deal with the problems that I encounter. And the iPad kind of lets you get away with not having to deal with them.
It does. That's a big question, because I know that there are drawings that I do where I will erase and I will back up and I will change, certain strokes that I don't like. And there are certain drawings where I consciously don't do that, where I treat the iPad like a piece of paper, knowing how, let's say it's detrimental, the fact that you can do that little gesture with your 2 fingers on the screen to undo as much as you want. It is detrimental because suddenly you have too much control over the choice of stroke. And I think it was Veronica who said it so well, Veronica Lawlor, who said, what about if we walked like this? If we took a step and then chose, oh, you know what, that was not the right step, I'm going to back up and do another one. Obviously, it is detrimental. So you have to be careful when you tackle drawing with the iPad, not to let the iPad take over your process of drawing. And I think that's crucial.
I think that's really good advice, because I think just because you can doesn't mean you should necessarily.
Absolutely.
Because limitations are so much the source of creativity. If you can do anything if you have every tool at your disposal, every possibility, it's so overwhelming but you need, it's like the oyster, you need a little bit of sand in the shell to make a pearl.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree entirely. And that's why I am less appealed by Procreate, which is another amazing app. But it is too much like Photoshop for me, and I've never been a Photoshop person. I've never been, the kind of person who wants to doctor everything in a very, with all the know-how that it takes. I'm almost suspicious of this.
All right, good. Well, so a little bit of ambivalence about incredible technology. So there are amazing things that you can do with it. It has its frustrations, like every other tool that we use, and sometimes those frustrations are an opportunity, and sometimes I don't know. In my case, it just made me want to draw with other things, which is probably a good thing too. So
that's great. Yeah, but I'll add this though about the iPad quickly. Is its portability. And I think at the end of the day, for me, it is one of the biggest appeals of having this iPad around always in my purse, is that, well, you have potentially 600 pages in this app, which is roughly what I have, I think, by now, because I don't flush them out on Dropbox all the time. And they're all there at my disposal. And I really like that. I really like that they're organized in those little sketchbooks.
So, but I have just as much portability right here, and almost as many pages. So,
okay.
These cost like $9. So,
okay.
Anyway, so typically I've brought along an expert just to tell her that she's wrong. Anyway,
yeah, I'm very pleased with the conclusion of this chat.
Anyway, you'll get a chance to meet more from France without my interruptions in our upcoming class Stretching, which is really fantastic, and France, who I've been a huge fan of for an enormous amount of time, reveals all of her secrets, and by the time the class is over, you'll know how to do everything that she does even better than she does. So thanks again, France, for coming and talking today to us, and we'll see you in class.
Okay, see you. Bye, Danny.